Welcome to Intellify. Today I'll discuss the Black Plague. What was Black Plague? How did it happen and when did it happen? I'm going to brief you all of that in this video. Near 1300s, the Black Plague affected the Hubei region near Wuhan in China. It was a widespread. Near China, there is this country called Mongol. Mongol has its borders which is Russia and China. It is a country between Russia and China. Since there was a widespread of this disease in China, there were certainties that Mongol was infected too. Mongol aimed to reign Kaffa, a region in the western province. During that time, trade purposes were carried through ships, and the ships followed the Silk Road. The Silk Road was the road or the route which combined or which joined the eastern provinces and the western provinces. During 1300s, Mongol and the Mongolian army did the first so-called biological war. Since Mongol was infected too, Mongolian army carried the dead corpses, the dead bodies of the infected patients, and catapulted it in the region of Kaffa. The region of Kaffa now was infected, and Mongolian army invaded and reigned Kaffa region. The Mongolian army also carried the trade purposes with Geneva, Sicily, and other European countries. They were happy that they had reigned Kaffa finally, but the same ship was carried throughout the global route. And that is how Sicily, Geneva, and the entire Europe was infected. In between the period of 1347 to 1351, the entire Europe was raged with this plague. But how did this plague happen? The plague follows the same science behind the Justinian plague. The grains in the ship were infected. As we all know that the colder countries depended on the warmer countries for their grains and spices. So the grains in the ship were infected because all the infected people came over to the ship. The rats, they depended on these grains. Now there are these special fleas which depend on rats. So these fleas bite the rats, they suck their blood. But this bacteria, Yersinia pestis, does not allow the fly to swallow this bacteria or this blood. Therefore, flea goes looking towards the other host. Other host could be human or an animal, and vomits it out on the person or on the animal. And that is how the plague or this disease is transmitted. This disease not only attacked humans but sheep, pigs, cows as well. The plague infected so many sheep during that time that there was loss of, or say, shortening or shortage of European wool that time. What did people do to cure this plague? It was known that only after the ships arrived, this plague occurred, this disease occurred in the hometown. Therefore, the emperors and the people decided not to allow any ship to come to the shores of Sicily. And the sailors or the people who were aboard on that ship were not allowed to enter the province, and they were isolated in an area for 40 days. And Europeans termed this activity as quaranto giordi, and from this word quarantine was derived. Some people or say most of the people, depended on herbs, and it did not do any justice, or it did not do any good to the disease. Some people depended on vinegar, some people depended on cold baths. Some people also thought that it was God's punishment, that a demon had occurred in their lives, and therefore, to let this go away, many Jews were massacred in the act of sacrificing life to the deity. Now, what are the symptoms of this plague? The symptoms were swellings on the arms and groins and armpit area on the body, filled with pus and other fluid. People had chills, fever for a lot of days. The physicians carried out the treatment by bloodletting. Bloodletting is removing or draining the blood out of the body in order to cure a disease. Or they pinched the boils and let the pus straight away, but this only infected more people. People did all that they could to avoid the plague. Priests did not give blessings to the ones who were infected. People did not even allow their own loved ones to enter their houses or even touch them. It was a dreadful disaster during that time. There was a movement called the flagellant movement, which gave hopes to the people. In the flagellant movement, the flagellants, that the people, they acted the practice of self-harm or self-punishment in the public area. These people used to hit themselves with leather belts and metals on the leather belts, and did this practice for 33 and a half days in one province, and then after 33 and a half days they went on to another province or another town. This movement somehow gave people a hope in this helpless situation. And soon afterwards, people started seeing them or seeing the flagellants as the ray of hope to help them out or to seek help from. And this way, the flagellants were taking the place of the emperors, and the emperors noticed them and they stopped this activity of flagellants. Even if the plague lasted for 3 to 4 years in Europe, it soon, after so many years, it had an outbreak again in China, and now it spread in China as well as India. Almost 200 lakh people died during that time due to this plague. That was 42% of the world population that time. It was a horrendous sight. Fun fact, the Black Death was not the term used during that time. It was named fairly afterwards, after few years, after research and studies, people named it Black Death. Why? Because when people were infected due to this plague or due to this disease, their skin became black. And that is why Black Death was the name of this plague. After Europe was infected due to this plague and it settled down a little, many people had already died. Almost half of the population of Europe was killed in this plague. And therefore, the smaller people became the hope to revive the economy. Peasants and farmers became the source of income, and the main source of income rather. And that is how colonization slowly eradicated in Europe, and capitalism started reigning in European countries. Thank you for watching.